So Jim, the captain of Team Metagame Gurus. See that? Jim, a hockey fan, so you see you got the C on the shirt.
Looks like on the backup table we have a Metagame Gurus mirror.
I believe so, yeah. Danny Jessup. And we have, yeah, I believe so.
Your draft is ready.
Can't imagine that anybody else is wearing that shirt.
Yeah, Kevin Jones versus Andrew Jessup on the backup.
All right, so we already know Kevin Jones will be 5-0 after this round.
Well, I mean, he's playing Grixis, right?
Yes.
All right, we'll be underway. This is Burn Rejeskai. Jim on the play starts out on a Sacred Foundry tapped, and for Lucas, it is straight to the game plan. Lava Spike 17 go.
So Jim Davis has already won 2 small elements in this game. He won the die roll, and he won the does Lucas have Goblin Guide or Monastery Swift Spear on turn 1 lottery.
3 copies of Ancestral Vision in the deck for Jim. He will play a Sulphur Falls and pass. Great for him that he can have dual lands that come into play untapped here for no cost of life points.
Yeah, when you start playing these blue decks with 3 colors with more than 20 lands, somewhere in the 23-24 range, Sulphur Falls becomes a very appealing dual land.
Eidolon of the Great Revel from Lucas will be remanded back into his hand as we go back over to Jim. You saw he had a chance to suspend some Ancestral Visions there, but really instead opted to hold up a remand.
Yeah, specifically, Lucas having Eidolon. And when your opponent doesn't have the turn 1/1 drop, that usually heavily suggests that they will have Eidolon. The remand was very valuable there.
Yeah, Burn rarely keeps no creature hands.
Right.
Lucas with 14 creatures. He has the 12 you'd expect, and then playing 2 copies of Grim Lavamancer to supplement. He'll now play a Goblin Guide here. I like that he's disguised the land drop. He swings. Jim will flip. Serum Visions. And then Lightning Helix away the Goblin Guide. And I mentioned that there are 3 main deck Helixes in Jim's deck. That is trouble for Lucas.
Yep, 4 Snapcaster Mage as well. Things just continue to go well for Jim in this match.
He'll bolt Jim back down to 17. And I guess it wasn't a disguise. Lucas just with no third land. The Ancestral Visions will tick down to 3 as we enter Jim's 4th turn, and he enters that at a very healthy life total.
Looks like Jim has a Nahiri in hand. I like the idea of Jim going to work on actually winning the game.
Yeah, well, the thing about the Nahiri is he also has, I think, an extra Ancestral Visions in hand. That's a great discard for it.
Yeah.
We'll go to 16 to cast the Harbinger.
Nothing to be exiling, so we'll see some rummaging. I imagine that you're right, the Ancestral Vision. We already have one on suspend. There's no reason to wait around. And also then here he threatens to close the game before that becomes relevant.
Draw and pass for Davis. We go back to Lucas. Draws Monastery Swift Spear. And now he's in a tough spot. He can't really attack the Nahiri. I don't think he'll ever get through those loyalty counters, but I don't know that he can race the Nahiri either.
Well, if he can't attack through a Nahiri on 6 loyalty, he's in a pretty rough spot killing Jim on 16 life.
Right. Or it's like maybe he could get all the loyalty off the Nahiri, but it would take his whole hand to do it.
Notably, Nahiri can exile enchantments regardless of their tap status.
So Nahiri can just exile the Eidolon here?
Correct.
Oh, wow. And Jim's going to make the play. Eidolon's gone. That Vision's ticked down to 2.
And if the Eidolon were still in play, Lucas could use the triggers to damage the Nahiri, maybe fight through that way. But of course, Nahiri pretty.
Wow, yeah.
Nahiri is pretty good against Theros block.
Yeah, it's tapped card effect or creature, or just enchantment.
It's such a weird block of text.
Yeah. I mean, what about those cycle of enchantments, those auras that tap out of Future Sight? You know? You're just assuming that enchantments wouldn't be tapped.
Right. There are not very many of them in Magic's history.
You could tap them with opposition.
The fact that it means it's already tapped creature, the templating with tapped artifact is pretty weird.
Right.
But what do I know?
I think as a player, one of the feelings is like, I understand if it's a tapped creature, any artifact or any enchantment as a player that feels more symmetric to me. I know when I played with the card, I had to train myself to not think that I had to retrain myself that the artifacts had to be tapped, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it.
So Lucas continues to try to get in this one, but he finds that his Boros Charm gets spell snared as Jim just continues to rummage with Nahiri, draw cards with Serum Visions, and now the Ancestral Visions has made its way down to 1 suspend counter with Jim still at a very healthy 16.
Yep, Jim has Lightning Helix in hand. Nahiri's ticking up to that Emrakul.
Helix.
Emrakul Helix would be lethal.
Snapcaster in hand for a Helix in the yard. I don't see Lucas pulling this out.
No.
And he's still on 2. We'll see how much longer he wants to go at this.
And Jim still has 4 cards in hand on the following turn. The Vision's off suspend. He'd be drawing up to 8. Goes ahead and uses Snapcaster Mage at the end step. Kiefer catches the life gain off the Helix with a Skullcrack, but this is really just him making the plays that he has at this point in time.
It's not a bad play. It is the best play he has. It's not going to be enough.
Right.
But he is doing it right here.
Yeah, uses this to break up some of the loyalty on the Nahiri. Though Jim's in the territory where even just the Snapcaster on the table, he's in pretty good position to close the game that way. And here's the interaction I actually kind of like. One of the downsides of Serum Visions is that you draw the card, you scry after the fact. So usually, even if you find a card you want, you leave it on top of the deck. When you have an active Nahiri, you can go
actually
ahead,
get it.
discard the terrible card that you obviously drew with Serum Visions, because it always delivers a bad one, and then draw the one that you saw that you wanted when you scried.
That's why I got to just play Preordains.
Yeah. God, you're so smart.
Island fetched up by Jim. Things at 15 apiece. You know, that's how it always feels, though. Those blind draw cards, you know, Serum Visions doesn't ever draw you the card you want. You always have to scry into it. My favorite ones are the ones that let you, like, you know the card Croson Tusker? You play it in Cube?
Yep.
Right? So the text on that card actually, the text reads, you cycle it, and when you cycle it, you may get a basic land out of your deck.
Yep.
How the card actually works is you draw 2 basic lands. That's just the text on it.
It's just actually worse than Kadama's Reach. Jim got pretty aggressive there. A little main phase Snapcaster Serum Visions. He just wants to end this game as fast as possible.
He's showing, yeah, from a position. He's playing from a position of huge strength to make a play like that against Burn.
Yep. At 15, still has Lightning Helix in hand.
Discarded his Emrakul, that's why there's no more graveyard.
Yep. Scryed a Lightning Bolt to the top, so he has that in hand as well. A couple bolts at Helix won't take long for him to deal with the rest of Lucas's life total.
I do like that about the deck, is that even so, Jeskai closes much quicker than a lot of the control decks of the format.
When you're playing these games when there aren't a lot of threats and you don't need to commit your Lightning Bolts to destroying creatures, it's very easy to close games.
Lavamancer and Riftbolt from Lucas. Jim deciding where he wants to throw these burn spells. I was upstairs. Okay, he'll tag the Grim Lavamancer. Jim's not one to try to end the game too quickly. I can respect that. He goes to 18.
Really enjoys playing Magic too much for that.
After my own heart there. When I'm winning games, I love those games. I don't want to stop playing them.
Yeah. When your opponent concedes, do you ever ask them where they're going? I thought we were still playing a game.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm having fun. Swing puts Lucas down to 9. Riftbolt comes off suspend. Lucas gets to target with it.
At 9 against a 7 loyalty Nahiri with 2 Snapcaster Mages in play and Jim at 18 life. There's just really not a lot of, there's not really a good target for Riftbolt.
He'll go for Nahiri. It's down to 4. Lucas still on 2 lands. Many cards, but he'll pass. Jim throws some lightning bolts. Has 3 remands in his hand. Lucas with 2 mana, he's not going to be able to play through 3 remands.
Yeah, the remand does a very good time walk impression when your opponent is on 2 lands.
All right, and that will be the game. Game 1 over to Jim Davis, Jeskai control.
Yeah, well, winning the die roll was huge there. Lucas's hand was a little slow and stumbled on mana a little bit there. And Jim also drew multiple copies of Lightning Helix.
Yeah,
so
even with a good draw, I never felt like Lucas had much of a shot in there. Jim's ability to play Lightning Helix, flash it back, and get Nahiri down, maybe too much for the burn deck to overcome.
Being able to play is also a significant luxury. You can always afford to play your first land tapped, sequencing with the Sulfur Falls, not having to crack a bunch of fetch lands. You get to conserve a lot of life points that way.
We'll go ahead and look at the sideboards. We'll start over Lucas Kiefer on burn. So he's got 3 copies of Destructed Revelry, 4 copies of Destructed Revelry, 3 copies of Path to Exile, 2 Exquisite Firecraft, 2 Deflecting Palm, 2 Lightning Helix, a Spellskite, and a Searing Blaze. Now, a lot of these are going targets for very specific cards, but what do you think he likes in the matchup?
Speaking of specific cards, I kind of hope that we see a Deflecting Palm on an Emrakul shot. It seems like your odds are pretty low.
I don't think Jim would ever let that happen.
Yeah, especially Jim. I'm just kind of not big on Deflecting Palm in general, but if you have it, you assume it's for matchups like this, right?
Yeah, it's good against Infect. It's good against Primeval Titan. When I used to play Amulet Bloom, that was one of the few cards that I was really scared about that card sometimes.
The Exquisite Firecrafts look pretty solid here. With the Spell Mastery, it'll be uncounterable. Also 4 damage for 1 card. We saw that earlier in the event. I think that this one's going to start to see more play in Modern.
Something like Spellskite at all, it does. Some of Jim's removal is things like Lightning Helixes. Spellskite could help him out there.
It's pretty okay. It's not the kind of thing I like to be doing in Burn. Specifically, I think that this is kind of at its best against Infect. The pure race with the pump spells, so you can try to hedge that way.
All right, over on Jim's side of the board, he has 2 copies of Negate, 2 Spreading Seas, 2 Crumble to Dusts, a Celestial Purge, a Dispel, a Wear Tear, an Engineer Explosives, an Anger of the Gods, a Wrath of God, a Vendilion Click, a Stony Silence, and an Izzet Staticaster. His main deck already actually seems pretty good with all the Helixes and even a Timely Reinforcements in the main, but I think he's going to be able to add to his arsenal.
Yep, the 2 Negates and the Dispel are going to be solid in this kind of matchup. The Celestial Purge is also pretty good. There's a good number of creatures in Kiefer's deck. Those are the primary targets we're looking at here.
Something like Wrath of God, not enough creatures for out of burn?
It's just too slow. You've already taken 4 to 6 damage from every creature before you Wrath of God it.
Fair enough. Players going to get ready for the second game. This is Kiefer versus Davis. Currently, we're in the middle of Season 2 here on the SCG Tour as we build our way up toward the Invitational. Now, we started back in Columbus. That was almost 2 months ago in April, the Columbus Invitational weekend. We have had 5 opens on the schedule so far. So there was the Standard Open in Columbus. We had Modern Opens in Milwaukee and Indianapolis. You had that top 8 over in Indianapolis with Grixis Delver. Then we moved over to Standard. It was Atlanta. And then last weekend's Open in Orlando, both of them won by Tom Ross. And then now we're here in Dallas. Now, if you want to come out in Season 2, we still have some events left as we make our way toward the Invitational. We will have the Legacy Open of the season. That is our next event. It's going to be the weekend of July 9th and 10th. It's in Worcester, so out in the East Coast. If you want to be able to get that one. Lots of people have asked to get to that one. The airport, you fly to Boston and then make it to Worcester if you're coming by air. Also, it's a very drivable location. Then we'll make it to Columbus for a Standard Open, Baltimore for a Standard Open. We'll have the regional championships, which we talked about earlier, the first weekend in August. That'll be Standard. And then we'll finish the season with some Modern over in Syracuse as we have our East Coast Invitational. That's the Season 2 Invitational. It's about 2 months from now in New Jersey. So that'll be a mixed format, Modern and Standard, just like all the other Invitationals. So find an event near you here on the SCG Tour. There's still a lot of action to be played here in Season 2, which is the longest season of the year.
Yeah, ton of Magic to be played yet. Still have the Legacy Open, Legacy Standard and Modern all available.
We're back to Game 2. Lucas Kiefer will be on the play. He will be going down onto at least 6. So for Lucas Kiefer, one of the 3 Kiefer kids, the family, they make it out to all the events. He is the eldest of the 3 and was the first one to finally get a top 8 finish. That was nothing other than last weekend. Lucas Kiefer made it into the top 8 there in Standard. Of Team Lotus at just 15 years old, the family out of Boulder, Colorado, all 3 of them traveling them. trailing these opens. Some interesting things about him. Big fan of Chipotle. He says he can live on a diet of Chipotle alone. And he's been to more than 35 countries. I don't even know if I can say that now. I certainly couldn't say it at his age.
I definitely can't say it now. And my number was like 2 when I was his age. And
counting Canada?
That's counting like taking a step into Canada.
So current sophomore in high school, part of that team. A big congratulations on him not getting that top 8 spot last weekend. I think we were all really, it was a pretty big achievement.
Yeah, for sure. There's a good number of day 2s between the 3 Kiefers. This is the first time that they cracked the elimination round. So hopefully hopefully the first of many.
I would be surprised if there's not another one before the year's out with the way these guys play.
Yeah.
They are fun. All 3 of them are fundamentally very sound.
Yeah, for sure.
Scry for Lucas will put a card on the top. We start out. This is Lava Spike, Jim to 17. Looking a lot like last game. This time Lucas is on the play, though.
Yeah. Would definitely prefer to have a 1-drop, though this time on the play, an Eidolon could be game-breaking.
We'll see if he has it. Draws another Lava Spike.
Yeah, he's not fetching for nothing.
Some 2-drop. Eidolon sounds pretty good here. He'll get Sacred Foundry, join Jim at 17. And it's this is just right upstairs. It's another Lava Spike. And a 3rd Lava Spike.
3 of a
Jim's
kind.
at 11. All right, then. Almost halfway through.
With
there
the
we go.
scalding turn, we're halfway there.
On turn 2, we've gotten through 10. Now, so they're saying if his hand is a mountain and if he has 3 more Lava Spikes, then we're good, right?
Yeah, he'll win next turn. Assuming Jim has another fetch land.
Yeah. I have bigger concerns if he has 3 more Lava Spikes, though.
I don't know what you mean.
All right. It's a great deck, the All Mountains Lava Spikes deck. I'm a big fan.
It's kind of like the all Black Lotus Ancestral Recall deck.
That deck wins on turn 1 every game. just every game. Jim plays Hallowed Fountain tapped, passes the turn. Here's Lucas. Lucas can't keep this up all game. Land and pass for Lucas.
Had the land, but did not have the 4th, 5th, or 6th Lava Spike.
Dispel is the draw from Jim. Well, if Lucas only plays Lava Spikes, that Dispel's not going to do very much.
No. I believe I spot it was either a Tarkus command or a Boros Storm. It was one of the gold burn spells is in Lucas's hand.
So something dispellable.
Right.
Lucas will fetch. Now, in game 1s, you'd see a burn player hang on to that fetch land because of a card like Searing Blaze. I would assume that's no longer in the deck based on this play.
Yeah, once your only target in Jim's deck is Snapcaster Mage. I guess he has like the random Vendilion click. This is not the matchup for Searing Blaze.
Lucas will fix his colors. He gets the copy of Stomping Ground, draws Bloodstained Mire. That'll be his play, and he'll pass.
So I actually like the patience from Lucas there. He didn't pull the trigger on any spells there. With Jim already down to 10, you do have the luxury to kind of force some action. Also, if you just start casting your spells and Jim just has counters, you find yourself with 1 or 2 cards in hand, and the road for Jim to be very easy to actually interact with you.
Staring match starting between the players. Jim playing Flooded Strand. No plays, no sacrifices. He'll pass. Lucas continues to fetch out dual lands on the end step.
And for Lucas, he wants to stop drawing lands right now.
Let's see if he can do it. Eidolon of the Great Revel is the draw. That one will play here. He'll cast. Now Jim looks. Looks like he's got Spell Snare for it. Lightning Bolt, Engineered Explosives. 2 dispels. It'll be a Spell Snare on the Eidolon. He'll keep the board clear as we pass back. That's just like Jim has a copy of Vendilion Click. He's debating if he wants to crack a fetch land to go for it. To do so, he'd have to take down his Dispel mana.
Yep.
Scorekeeper, please.
Then something like a Boros Charm will put you all the way down to 5. It doesn't look like Jim has picked up a Lightning Helix or a Timely Reinforcements at this time.
He draws a Nahiri. Opted not to go for that click just yet.
Especially with Lucas just doing nothing, or the only thing that he has done in the past couple turns was a spell that was countered immediately. Jim does have some time. It'd be pretty greedy, I think, to take Dispel down.
Lucas draws a Boros Charm. He passes the turn. Jim goes down to 9 as he'll crack a fetch land. And maybe now we'll see Vendilion click. And he gets that basic Plains. So he could click with Dispel up.
And seeing as Dispel is the only piece of interaction that Jim has right now, I think that makes sense to go for this here.
So, Vendilion click. In response, Lucas will attempt to Boros Charm him. There is that Dispel, and looks like Jim is going to Dispel away the Boros Charm. Now Lucas shows a hand of 2 Deflecting Palms. And
I might be inclined to just let Lucas keep these.
yeah, he lets him keep both. Well, we wondered if Lucas would board them in, see if he could get Jim if Jim ever went for Emrakul. He's not going to get him anymore.
Right, now they are conditional lava spikes for the most part.
I don't think Jim will ever, I'd be very surprised if either of these cards deal damage.
Yeah, Jim has a Snapcaster Mage in hand, already has a Spell Snare and a Dispel in the graveyard.
Here's Nahiri from Davis. He knows that the Winka Coast is clear. Looks like he's going to go ahead and discard away Celestial Colonnade. Draws a Flooded Strand. I guess he doesn't want Colonnade in the face of those Deflecting Palms.
Yeah, it would come back and hit him for 4. It's a huge mana investment as well. He wants to be able to leave up 3 mana for that Snapcaster Mage plus a counter spell for the foreseeable future.
What I do like is that Jim after drawing the Flood Strand, didn't play the land. He's leaving it as a possible discard for his future Nahiri turns.
Yeah.
For Lucas, it's going to be Monastery Swift Spear. Jim asks to read Deflecting Palm.
Some players might force Jim to ask a judge for the Oracle text.
Yeah,
I definitely approve of just showing your opponent the card.
You know, I called the last time I played an Open. I called a judge for the Oracle text on Deflecting Palm. And then my opponent just said, nah, don't worry about it, and just showed me one out of his hand, which I did not previously know about.
Now, that is the type of behavior that I would probably not recommend. That might be...
It was pretty great.
That's excessively nice.
He told me, that was a good read, man. No problem. And then he handed it to me out of his hand.
Did you get a drink with him after the event?
It was great.
Are you guys friends now? Is that what happened?
Jim's going to go for Emrakul here, looks like. It's going to attack. Now, this does deal 15. Yeah, Jim says, I'm going to negate and Snapcaster Dispel your 2 Deflecting Palms. Lucas is at 15. That's a pretty convenient number. And in 2 games, it will be Jim Davis notching the victory over Lucas Kiefer.
Yeah, and in that match that we saw play out, Lucas didn't have the turn 1 drop in either game, and Jim's hands were actually pretty good in general. Though if Lucas was going to win either of those games, it would have had to have been on the back of a turn 1 Swift Spear or a turn 1 Goblin Guy. That's just what Burn needs in matchups like this.
So Jim Davis improves to 5-0 with Metagame Gurus. Now on the backup feature, that one completed. Grixis did lose.
What?
I know.
I would like a recount on that one.
It's unbelievable. So Kevin Jones drops to 4-1. And Danny and yeah.
Are we sure?
Andrew Jessup is 5-0 now.
Did he concede to Andrew, or do
it could have? I think they played.
Okay,
we'll confirm it.
I'll find.
Because you're right. That doesn't really make sense. We should look at.
I'll find Kevin on the floor. We'll make sure that we are reporting everything correctly.
All right. Well, we do have a backup feature match, which we'll get to that one in just a second here. But all right, having looked at that matchup, Jeskai Control looks to be a house against Burn based on that. I mean, I don't see any big. There aren't big missteps there from Lucas Kiefer's side, but Jim made it look easy.
It was all about the quality of Lucas's hands. So he played it very well, given the tools that he was given. He did some mulliganing. He didn't have the turn 1 Goblin Guide or the turn 1 Monastery Swift Spear. Jim was on the play-in game 1, had the remand for the Eidolon. So those kinds of games, the Burn deck just realistically isn't ever going to win.
So Deflecting Palm in the matchup. I understand that like one deck plays a 15-15 and said, hey, I could Deflecting Palm that. I'm concerned that from the Burn side, what happened at the end of that game will happen every single time.
Just in general, that's how I feel about Deflecting Palm as a card.
Well, there are strategies like
yeah.
Gristlebrand or Primeval Titan where they can't stop it, you know?
Yeah, I kind of dig it against Gristlebrand. You have me on that one. But just in general, I don't know. I don't know how much I like it in my sideboard. And in that matchup, I agree. I think it's going to be too low impact, and especially when Jim just sees Deflecting Palm.
Sure. Well, we are going to go ahead and go to another matchup here. This is another player who's establishing quite the modern resume. This is going to be Robert, or rather,